I'm here as a concerned citizen who happens to have been involved in the criminal justice system for over 10 years. I'm here to speak from my perspective as someone who's worked in the voluntary sector, who's volunteered with EFRI Ottawa, John Howard Ottawa, the Infinity Lifers Liaison Group, and Circles of Support and Accountability. I don't represent the National Associations active in criminal justice, nor Circles of Support and Accountability. So what I do speak about, what I can speak about today, are my experiences and what they've taught me, what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've felt, and even what I've smelt. I'm probably going to talk a little bit too about what I've not seen. Justin spoke a little bit about the history of Prisoner Justice Day, the struggle emerging in prisons across Canada before and after the deaths of Eddie Nayland and Bobby Landers. Well, the first hunger strike announced by Jack McNeil and Howard Brown on behalf of the prisoners and institutions of Millhaven in June 1976 was just 1 month after Bobby died in solitary confinement. They were about a year apart, their deaths. The notice for the hunger strike was called to remember Eddie Nayland and Bobby Landers, who died in Millhaven segregation, and for all our fellow comrades and brothers and sisters from prisoners across the country who died in the hands of an apathetic prison system and its people. Well, last year that history hit home with me when I received an email from Bobby Landers' wife. Renee had moved to the States and had since moved on with her life, but not really. She was Googling and investigating and trying to find answers to so many questions she still had that were more than 30 years old. About why he died, what happened in the cell, and how she could really start her healing and move on. Similar to Bobby, Renee was determined. Within moments of speaking with her, and again reaffirmed when I met her later, I knew what brought her and Bobby together. Not that I knew Bobby, but I'd heard stories and understood that Bobby was a leader. He was persistent and influential, and he demanded change in the prison system. So this year, Jack McNeil and Howard Brown's words resonate a little bit more with me, and today is a little bit more personal. This same week, it also, I guess it's a little bit more personal, and I get a little bit more angry, maybe more than other years, because this same week, we've heard the Minister of Public Safety, as Justin has also said, minimizing the effects of double bunking in Canada's federal prisons, warehousing, in effect. The same government which is proud of establishing the Mental Health Commission of Canada and a mental health strategy for prisoners in institutions in Canada, in communities. A lot of people might not know we're the only G8 country that doesn't have a mental health strategy, so it's kind of about time, I'd say. And I would also argue that double bunking undermines mental health and wellness, particularly for people who are often the most marginalized and vulnerable in our communities. I'd remind you too, as Justin has said, the UN Standard Minimum Rules for Treatment of Prisoners, Section 9, accommodations do guide us to provide accommodations in individual cells and rooms by him or herself. The rules and CSC's own policy principles clearly state that it is not desirable to have 2 prisoners in a cell or room. They also note that all accommodations provided for the use of prisoners, and in particular all sleeping accommodations, shall meet the requirements of health, due regard being paid to climatic conditions, cubic content of air, minimum floor space, lighting, heating, ventilation. These are things we take for granted. The Correctional Investigator of Canada, also this year, has made it known that the rate of double bunking in the last 5 years has significantly increased by 50% about, and now directly affects almost 10% of the total federal inmate population. Most recent data from 2009 suggests that this is about 1,300, just over 1,300 prisoners in 657 cells across Canada. So why is overcrowding, double bunking condemned internationally? Effects on mental health, wait times for programs, access for services, overall health and sanitation of the facilities, staff and prisoners' safety, the effects on management. Does this affect lockdown? Does this affect visitation? And quite simply, we know better. The 12th UN Congress on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice this past April in Brazil, we heard delegates calling for the overhauling the criminal justice system and reducing prison overcrowding. Finland, a lot of people don't know this about our Scandinavian colleagues over there. Finland recognized that overcrowding was sometimes caused by inadequate cooperation, loose legal regulations, and a lack of political will. This is not only cost-effective, but unjustifiable from a humanitarian and social justice standpoint. The problem of prison overcrowding can be solved in ways that increase fairness and justice, save resources, and protect the community. One should not be jailed for being poor, they went on to say, nor should prisons replace psychiatric hospitals or become safe havens for mentally ill people. And so I remind us all about what led to that first hunger strike in Millhaven Institution in August 10th, 1976, why I still continue to strike on this day, and what continues to be a struggle across the country. I close by urging you to action in the face of short-sighted and merciless government decisions. And in the words of Jack McNeil and Howard Brown, we call upon our brothers and sisters from all prisons across the country and upon all concerned peoples of Canada to give their support to our one-day hunger strike in remembrance of our comrades and to unite as one voice in our struggle for better understanding, for compassion, and for equal justice for all.